Not too long ago, in a town very much like yours, there lived a boy named Nicholas. Like all children, Nicholas loved Christmas and the joy the season brought to all, or so he thought. One day, while shopping for the family Christmas tree at Mr. Mizer's lot, Nicholas saw a boy and girl outside of the fence with tears in their eyes. "What's the matter, kids?" he asked.
"Our parents can't afford to buy a Christmas tree this year. Santa will probably pass over our house now," the girl said.
No tree? Nicholas thought. How could anyone celebrate Christmas without a tree? The children went on to tell Nicholas that they lived a few miles down the road, and that many families there could not afford to buy trees. At that moment, the children stopped to take notice of an old man who was also staring at the trees on Mr. Mizer's lot. He looked sad. Nicholas walked over to the old man and asked, "Are you getting your Christmas tree today, sir?" The man smiled and said, "It's been quite a while since my wife and I were able to buy a tree, young man. Mr. Mizer has priced them so high." The man told Nicholas that he lived in the senior citizen building down the road, where many older people there could not afford to buy the high-priced trees either. "They are so beautiful, though," he said. "They smell like Christmas." Just then, Nicholas heard his father calling him. "Son, I have found a great tree for us," he said.
"I must go now, sir," said Nicholas. "But someday, I'll help everyone get a tree for Christmas."
The man smiled as a tear rolled down his cheek. He then turned and slowly walked home. Nicholas ran to his father with delight as he saw what was to be this year's tree and protector of all the great presents that Santa would place beneath it.
"It's beautiful, Dad," said Nicholas. "It's so big and soft. It smells like pine."
Together, they carried the tree to the sales counter. The father and his son daydreamed, with smiles on their faces and thoughts of past Christmas seasons on their minds. Both of them, however, were quickly brought back to reality when Mr. Mizer yelled out, "That will be $50. $50? Dad groaned. "That's right," snapped Mr. Mizer. "But you guys have got yourself one great-looking tree. If you cannot afford the price, though, you can always pick from that pile over there." Mr. Mizer pointed to a bunch of skimpy trees on the ground. "What's wrong with those trees?" Nicholas asked. "Go take a look, kid," Mr. Mizer said. Nicholas walked over to the pile and saw that these trees were not as beautiful as the other trees on the lot. Their branches were wilting, and they barely smelled of pine. "Who would want these ugly trees?" he thought. "Not me." Nicholas began to walk away from the pile, but all of a sudden, he felt a warm, joyous feeling all over his body. It was the true meaning of Christmas. It was the spirit of giving, and it had come to Nicholas stronger than he had ever felt before. At that moment, he looked down and saw a stump of a tree buried at the bottom of the pile. Nicholas could not understand why, but he began moving the trees until reaching that one, and when he did, he smiled happily. At the bottom was a small tree with a few branches. It did not smell like pine, and it was beginning to turn yellow from a lack of sunshine and water. Nicholas knew in his heart, though, that this was to be the family's tree for Christmas. "Dad," he called, "I want this tree." When Dad walked over, he could not believe his eyes. "You're joking, right, son?" he asked. "No, I'm not, Dad," replied Nicholas. "We must give this tree a home for Christmas. I feel so sad for it." "Son, the other tree we picked is so big and beautiful," said Dad. "Surely you would rather have that one." "No, I would really like this tree, please," said Nicholas. When his father saw how much Nicholas really wanted that particular tree, he turned and went to the counter to buy it. When he got there, Mr. Mizer began to laugh out loud. "Is your son all right today?" he asked. "Look at the Christmas tree he wants." "That is no concern of yours," Dad said. "What is the cost?" The greedy Mr. Mizer, knowing how much Nicholas wanted that tree, said, $40. $40? You can't be serious, Dad said. $40. Take it or leave it, said Mr. Mizer. Leave it we will, Dad said. Come on, son. There are other tree lots in town. When the father turned to get Nicholas, though, he saw his son holding the tree joyfully. At that moment, Dad also began to feel the Christmas spirit strong in his heart. He paid Mr. Mizer the $40 and told him that someday his greed would catch up with him. While driving home that day, Nicholas and his dad didn't talk very much. They both felt so good about giving a home to a tree that would otherwise be left on the lot long after Christmas. When they got home, Mom had to be convinced of their good deed, but soon after, she accepted the little tree with the Christmas spirit strong in her heart too. "This tree is kind of cute," she said. "We think so too, Mother," said Nicholas. "Can we decorate it tonight?" "Not tonight, son," she said. "It's getting late, and we still have to eat dinner." Nicholas was disappointed, but he said, "All right, Mom." That evening, after dinner and a bath, Nicholas was very tired, so he said his prayers and went to sleep. Later that night, however, Nicholas awoke to what sounded like crying. He sat up in his bed and listened carefully, but heard nothing. Just a dream, he thought. Then he heard it again. Nicholas got out of bed and walked down the hall to his parents' bedroom door, but heard nothing. He heard the sound again, a soft cry. Though Nicholas was afraid, curiosity sent him down the stairs. Ever so slowly, he tiptoed down, as if expecting to see a ghost or a burglar. When Nicholas got to the bottom step, he could not believe what he saw. There, in the middle of the room, was a big, beautiful tree with a glowing light all around it. The tree's branches were full and soft, and the room smelled of pine. Nicholas rubbed his eyes to make sure that he was not still in bed dreaming, but when he removed his hands from his face, the tree was still there. Nicholas sat on the stairs in amazement. After getting over his fear of the moment, he realized it was the tree that was crying. "Where did you come from? And why are you crying?" Nicholas asked. At that moment, the tree began to rub its branches together, which made a sound like a voice, and said, "I am the tree that you brought home today, and I am crying because I am both happy and sad." Nicholas looked around the room and saw no sign of his little tree. "I am the tree you're looking for, Nicholas," it said. "What you see now is what you felt in your heart today at the lot when you picked me. It is the real beauty inside every Christmas tree, large or small. All of us look like this to a child during the Christmas season, and I am so very happy you brought me home to be a part of yours," the tree said. Nicholas had to pinch himself just to make sure that he was really talking to a glowing tree. "What has made you so sad then?" Nicholas asked. "I am so very sad because, unlike myself, most of the smaller trees will not have a home for Christmas. They will not know the joy of being decorated with lovely ornaments or the sound of Christmas songs. Most of all, they will not have the honor of keeping Santa's presents safe on Christmas morning," said the tree. Nicholas, not afraid anymore, listened carefully. "Every year, we are cut down to get at the larger trees," said the tree. "This is sad, but if we'd been taken home by a family, then it would have been worth it.
Instead, we are always left to wilt away at Mr. Mizer's lot long past Christmas."
At this point, Nicholas was both happy and sad. Happy that he had given this simple tree a home for Christmas, and yet so sad for the fate of all the other little trees on Mr. Mizer's lot. With a tear in his eye, Nicholas got up from the stairs, walked over to the tree, and gave it a big hug. As if it were a miracle, he felt that the tree was so soft and it smelled sweet with pine. It then hugged Nicholas back. At that moment, someone asked, "What are you doing?" When Nicholas opened his eyes, both his mother and father were standing at the stairs. "Look at our little tree now," Nicholas said. But when he looked back, all he saw was the wilting little tree. "We think you should go back to bed now, son. You were probably dreaming," his mother said. Nicholas, still staring at his tree in amazement, agreed. On his way upstairs, Nicholas turned and said, "Don't worry anymore, my friend. I will make sure all the trees have a home for Christmas." His parents looked at each other and then told Nicholas to get some sleep. The following morning, Nicholas was full of energy. Now he had a plan. Knowing what had to be done, he quickly got washed and dressed and left the house. He took the bus that morning. The driver let Nicholas off in front of Mr. Mizer's tree lot. As he walked around, Nicholas began to notice many smaller trees that were thrown to the side to get at better, larger trees. "Back for a better tree already?" asked Mr. Mizer. "No, sir. I'm quite happy with mine, thank you," Nicholas said. "Then what can I do for you today?" asked Mr. Mizer. "Well, sir, I was wondering what happens to the smaller trees if no one buys them by Christmas Day," asked Nicholas. Mr. Mizer asked, "What do you want to know that for?" "If no one buys them by Christmas Eve," asked Nicholas, "couldn't we give them to less fortunate people who can't afford to buy a tree?" "Are you crazy?" asked Mr. Mizer. "If you want a tree from a lot, you pay for it." "But sir," Nicholas said, "you know that every year the smaller trees are left to wither away, while there are families who would very much enjoy them." "I'm sorry," Mr. Mizer said. "No money, no tree." "Please, sir, at least lower your prices," pleaded Nicholas. "No!" snapped Mr. Mizer as he walked away. Nicholas went home very sad that day. He tried so hard to convince Mr. Mizer to give the smaller trees to the needy families, but could not do it. Nicholas knew that he would not give up. He knew that he must try and try again. That night, Nicholas told his mom and dad about the smaller trees and how every year they were left on the lot to wilt, while other families could have enjoyed them. Although Mom and Dad were sad, they told Nicholas that there was nothing they could do. They knew the kind of man Mr. Mizer was. The trees were his, and they knew he would not change his mind. Nicholas spent the next few days trying to convince Mr. Mizer to change his mind, but he could not. "No money, no tree," he said over and over again. Christmas was now 2 days away. By Christmas Eve, Nicholas had decorated his little tree. In his eyes, it was beautiful. "I'm sorry for failing you," he said to the little tree. The tree did not reply. "I tried so hard to convince Mr. Mizer to give the trees a home for Christmas. I really did," said Nicholas. Still, there was no reply. "Christmas will not be the same for me this year," Nicholas said as he walked upstairs to his room. "Good night, little tree," he said. Later that evening, Nicholas was awakened from sleep by a voice whispering his name. "Nicholas, Nicholas," said the voice. He got up to see if it was his parents calling him, but it wasn't. He knew then what it was. He ran down the stairs, and there was his Christmas tree, as beautiful as ever, and shining brightly. "Nicholas, tonight is a very special one," said the tree. Boys and girls who have been good wait all year for this evening. But tonight is a special one for a tree also. We get to be in a loving home, sharing Christmas with a family, and protecting all of Santa's presents. That is why you must go back to the lot tonight, the tree said. I know it's getting late, but you have to go back. For what? Nicholas asked. I have tried for days to get the trees from Mr. Mizer, but he will not give them to me. Nicholas, trust me, said the tree. You must go back to the lot tonight. I know you will get the trees on this special evening. Tonight, there will be a Christmas tree for all. Nicholas somehow understood. He ran upstairs to wake his dad. What? His dad moaned. Please, Dad, please. I know tonight that Mr. Mizer will agree to give us the remaining trees, said Nicholas. I don't think so, son. Not tonight, Dad said. Please, Dad, isn't Christmas about giving? Pleaded Nicholas. I know that we can give the trees a home tonight. After seeing how much giving the trees a home meant to Nicholas, his father finally agreed. The two of them got dressed, jumped in the truck, and drove to Mr. Mizer's lot. When they arrived, though, it was already closed. Nicholas got out of the truck and walked over to the fence, as he thought there were many smaller trees left on the lot to wilt away. How very sad, he said. All those trees with no homes, and all those homes with no trees. How very sad. At that moment, Nicholas banged the fence in anger. To his amazement, it swung open. Dad! Dad! He called. Come quick! Nicholas's father walked over to him and was very surprised to see that the fence was unlocked. Now we can bring these trees to everyone, Nicholas said with great joy. I don't know, son. We would be entering someone else's property without permission. But Dad, the gate wasn't even locked. These trees have been left to die anyway, said Nicholas. I don't think so, son, said Dad. Please, Dad, Nicholas said. I met some children who live down that road. They say many families there do not have trees. We can make this a Christmas for everyone to remember. Please. His father thought for a moment and then agreed to help. The two of them began loading trees into their pickup truck. Both were very happy about what they were doing. All of a sudden, someone yelled, Stop, you thieves! It was Mr. Mizer. I received a phone call that someone was on my lot. I should have known that it would be you. What do you think you're doing? You can't steal my trees. But sir, Nicholas said, it's Christmas Eve, and you've left them all here to wilt away and die. I don't care, Mr. Mizer said. They are my trees, and I'll do with them as I please. Now, unload them from your truck, or I will call the police. Nicholas and his dad sadly obeyed Mr. Mizer's orders. As they began to put the trees back on the lot, a miracle happened. All of the trees began to glow brightly and became full and fresh. The air became sweet with the smell of pine. Mr. Mizer fell to his knees and started to shake. He could not believe his eyes. One of the trees moved its branches and seemed to speak. Is it really fair to leave us here tonight when there are so many children who do not have a tree for Christmas? In a child's eyes, this is what all trees look like on Christmas morning. Surely, Mr. Mizer, the spirit of Christmas is somewhere deep in your heart. It can shine from you if you let it. Mr. Mizer began to smile as he finally felt the true spirit of Christmas rush over him. He was no longer afraid. Never before had he felt this wonderful feeling. At the same time, though, he was very happy and yet a little sad. He thought of all the Christmas seasons that had come and gone without feeling this joy of giving to others. Now, there was peace in his heart. All of a sudden, Mr. Mizer jumped up from his knees and turned to Nicholas and his dad and said, "Well, guys, don't just stand there. Let's give these trees a home." Nicholas had to nudge his dad because his father was too amazed at the miracle. "Let's load up, Dad," Nicholas said. "Okay, son," said Dad. Mr. Mizer also had a truck, so the three of them were able to load up all of the trees. When they were done, Nicholas told the men to drive down the road at the end of the lot. He remembered the children who said they had no tree, and the old man who could not afford to buy one. When they arrived, Nicholas told the men to beep their horns as he began yelling, "Christmas trees for all! Christmas trees for all!" Lights began to come on inside the apartments. People began peeking out from their curtains to see what was happening. Soon, people were coming outside, and they could not believe what they saw. Free Christmas trees, and above all, Mr. Mizer handing them out. Within minutes, a large crowd had gathered. Nicholas was busy unloading the trees when he heard a voice say, "You did keep your promise after all." When Nicholas turned, he remembered that it was the old man who could not afford to buy a tree. "You truly are a saint, Nicholas," he said, as Mr. Mizer handed him a tree. "You did keep your promise." Nicholas also met the boy and girl he had talked to at the lot. "Thank you so much for the Christmas miracle," they said. "These trees are beautiful. Now Santa will have a place to put presents for everyone." That night, Nicholas truly felt and understood the real meaning of Christmas. It was the spirit of giving and seeing a smile on the face of someone less fortunate. When all of the trees were given out, Nicholas told his father, "Okay, Dad, time for us to enjoy our tree now. Santa's coming soon," he said. Mr. Mizer then said goodbye to Nicholas, but promised him that he would forever lower his prices and that he would give away all of the little trees that were left over to needy families every Christmas Eve from now on. The next morning, Nicholas awoke to some great presents of his own. Santa, knowing of Nicholas's good deed, made sure Nicholas's tree had many wonderful gifts placed neatly beneath it. As he came down the stairs, however, it was not the presents that Nicholas noticed. It was his Christmas tree. It was shining brightly, and the tree was larger and fuller and softer than ever, and the room smelled strong with the scent of pine. "Everyone owes you a great big thank you," said the tree to Nicholas, as the young boy drew closer to its branches. "You're quite welcome," Nicholas said, as he began to open his presents. "Yes, you sure did it," the tree whispered. "Thanks to you, there truly was a Christmas tree for all."